Hey, I didn't know if it would be ready in time for the video, so sorry for the edit, but we have a really big announcement. So we've been working on a website and it's a private forum. So the Facebook page has just been a placeholder for us so that we could build this and it would be separate on a private platform. And this way we wouldn't be subject, to censor or Facebook's rules or whatever. So if you hate Facebook and you don't have a Facebook, or you do, or whatever, now we have amanitaresearch.com. So it's free. It's for us to talk, join the conversation. We're going to start compiling all the research there, and we hope you make it your community. So yay! Happy 1000. The link is in the description. On to the video. So I have a how-to recreational dose video that I have not yet uploaded, but I may soon. And this is my story. And my very first dose of Amanita was my recreational, and that was by accident. So what happened? Let me see if I can get the light right. Better? Is that too much? So it was my very first time. All I had was all the bad information on the internet. Same bad information you guys had before you found my channel. And so I didn't have much to go on. And I knew I didn't want to risk taking way too much. And so I started small. And I made it the way that I show you. And I took 1/8 of a teaspoon, waited 30 minutes, didn't feel anything. And I was really, really scared. Because I hoped that it wasn't going to kill me. I read all the same stuff you read. I was really scared. And then I didn't feel anything after about 20 minutes. I took another 1/8 of a teaspoon. Didn't really feel much. I'm feeling a little calm. That's about it. And then I was like, I think I'm not taking enough. So I think I took a whole teaspoon. I know this doesn't sound like a recreational dose, but if you watch the video, you'll see why. And 15 dry grams made into chugging that's just stupid, and nobody's supposed to recreational dose that way. And again, this mushroom is highly personal. Anyway, it's all explained in the other video. So I took that teaspoon, and I was with my trip sitter, and I told him what I did, and he's like, well, you'll either get nothing or hang on, right? I was coming off Klonopin, had been for a while, was in a lot of pain, pretty miserable, pretty depressed, pretty hopeless. If you see my story on my channel, you'll see the frame of mind I was in. Wasn't a good one. I can't remember when I had smiled last at that point. And I was sitting there, and it was subtle. There's no come up or anything like that. I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, the world was a beautiful place. And he was talking, and I felt like sunshine on a rainbow. And I just had this really big grin on my face. And he looked at me and he's like, what, you feeling something? And I just started laughing uncontrollably. And laughing and laughing and laughing. He said, oh, it's good to see you smile. I said, right? And I jumped up. I said, we have to celebrate. He said, what are we celebrating? I said, life. Life is such a beautiful place to be. The earth is such a beautiful place to be. And in that moment, I stood up off the couch, and I had my feet on the floor, and I just felt my body rising. I felt like I was on the floor, but I felt my being growing larger and larger and larger, and I started laughing. I was like, Alice in Wonderland. What? And I was doing this with my hands. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so big. And I remember feeling like I was up in the sky looking down, like I was huge. And it was beautiful, the fact that there were two separate things. My physical self and my being were separate. and they were large, but they were still of the earth. And having a bigger picture. So in addition to being bigger, there was a bigger picture of what it's all about. But not in the cosmic sense, but as it related to me. What I was all about and why I was here and what the earth was about for me. It was a very personal thing. And what I could sense and what I could feel was our existence here is a joke, and we take it much too seriously. And that we're supposed to be laughing and going, ho, 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 all the way. And that's when I understood Santa Claus. Because how was Santa Claus? It was comical, but seriously comical. Like, seriously, you're taking this way too seriously. Like, you're getting all involved about social media numbers or your job or money or little details of whether you're living up to your potential. Like, there's no potential. Laugh about it. It's a joke. You're supposed to be having fun here. Stop taking it all so seriously. It's a joke. Get the joke. And then I realized all my anxiety was because I was taking everything too seriously and worrying about the things that don't matter. And I was having the memories and carrying the trauma of things that had happened to me here, giving me the PTSD, because I took those things too seriously. And the realization of all this, along with the laughter coming from the mushrooms, like it wasn't just a concept, it was the whole feeling of what it was actually supposed to be like to be here. The joy and the laughter. And so I stayed big, and I felt like I wanted to walk on my tiptoes. I started walking on my tiptoes because I felt like I was just going to float away. So I went outside, out on my back deck, and that's when I got small. So as I walked, I was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I got out on the back deck, and I'm looking up at the sky and the trees, and I felt so small. And it felt like a letdown. It felt depressing. And it felt scary. And then I realized that's how I've been feeling. I haven't been owning my presence and my place on this planet. I've been apologizing for my place, for myself, for taking up space, for not being good enough, for taking things too seriously. I didn't own the bigness of my presence and my right to assert my presence here and to be here joyfully. So I was able to see the smallness of my existence the way I'm living it versus the largeness of the way it's supposed to be lived. And then I just started crying. I'm like, well, this isn't very fun. But I cried for the sadness of all the years I wasted because I didn't get it. But almost as soon as I started crying, it was over and I felt fine again. It was pretty rapid, that dip into the negative. And then I started growing again and I felt like normal sized. But okay, how do I explain this? I didn't actually see this, but in my mind's eye, I saw Amanita mushrooms dancing with their hats on, and they had these wiry legs, and they had their hands holding their hats, and they were dancing, holding their hats and bobbing and showing me their hats. And they were dancing across in front of me in single file, like a dance line. Kind of like in Fantasia. And they were dancing. And what they were saying was they were celebrating and going, see, it's all supposed to be joy. It's all supposed to be, we're all celebrating. It's joyful. And it was the same feeling I got the first time I saw one in the ground. This joyful feeling that I know you've felt when you've seen them too. The whole thing was just joy. And lightness of being. Ownership of the joy. And I just felt like dancing with the music and them. So I just started dancing and just dancing. And then I realized that I think time had passed. And I had a sense of urgency that I had missed something. Like, how do I explain this? I had a feeling like while I was off doing all this stuff, I was missing something. So I came back into the trip sitter and I said, did I miss something? And he said, well, I don't know. Did you miss something? I said, I feel a sense of urgency, like I needed to get back in here, like I had missed something. And he said, how are you feeling? You feel okay? I said, I'm joy. It's great. I'm having a great time. I'm joyful. But I said, I have this sense of urgency that something has to be attended to. He said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. There's something urgent, and I can't figure out what's urgent. And so he said, well, do you want to leave the house? Do you want to go anywhere? Do you want to watch something? I said, let me think, because I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. So I sat down and I took a really deep breath. And then I realized, do you see the absurdity of the situation? You're sitting home at night with nothing to do. And you see that's the sense of urgency that you needed to get from the balcony to the den? For what? What is this sense of urgency? It's absurd. So this constant sense that I had that I got to figure out life. I got to figure out the next problem. I've got to solve problems. I've got to get things to a better place. That I got to hurry to get to the next thing. To be on time. Time is wasting. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And incidentally, the very next day, I was introduced to a musical group. And the very first song I heard from them, one of the lines in it was, rushing is violence. And that never left me because it piggybacked on this concept of how insane it is to always feel like you're missing something. It's a sense of missing out on doing the right thing and also a sense of rushing, but all together. And rushing is violence, and you're not missing out on anything. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, and if you're happy and enjoy. And when I realized that, the urgency left. And then I just breathed again. And then all of a sudden I craved sweets. Then I wanted to eat a lot. So I got into, I don't remember what I ate. I got into a bunch of crap I'm not supposed to eat. And boy, did it taste amazing. It was amazing. And that began, and I don't eat sugar. I don't like sugar. I don't want sugar. But that started about a 3-month-long love affair with baked goods. And after that, I remember feeling overwhelmed, intense, exhausted. And still when I was walking, I had this feeling like my feet were barely touching the floor. And time was all over the place. It was crazy. Like, I felt like time was speeding up and like and going faster, 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 faster. And like things were flashing before my eyes rapidly. And then that would stop and it would feel like time had frozen. And I was living outside of time. Like just my walk, from the fridge to the couch. In that span, and I don't know how long it took in reality, but I felt like I went through a time warp and time was going rapidly, and then it slowed down and I was moving in slow motion, so that by the time I got from the refrigerator to the couch, I truly didn't know how much time had passed. And that kind of freaked me out and made me laugh even more. And then I was sitting trying to make sense of all of this and wondering, is this what's supposed to happen? Did I take too much? Did I not take enough? Am I tripping? Or has all of this been normal and I didn't even take much? Because I only took a tiny bit. So is all this like really who I really am? And this is like, have I lost my mind? Am I like going nuts? Have I imagined all this? And my trip sitter said, are you okay? You got a weird look on your face. And I didn't even know how to explain all that. So I just said, yeah, I'm just confused. He said, in a bad way? I don't know. I can't figure out if I'm normal or if I'm even tripping. Oh, you're tripping. Oh, okay. I didn't know what was going on. And I said, I'm having serious time distortion. Then he says he didn't do this, but he went, look. He said he never did that. And I went, okay. And looked at the television, and I don't even remember what I saw, but I remember realizing it wasn't real. And it felt like Inception, like looking at something. I felt complete, like 3 removed from the screen, watching the screen. Like it was the screen and then the screen and then the screen. But it wasn't weird to me. It was like this, oh, that really is fake. Like, that's really not real. Like, I know it's not real, but if it's a really good movie, you can get into it and feel like it's real. But at this point, I couldn't even get into it. It was so not real. And then I didn't know what to do because he was into the movie. So I sat there staring at the screen, enjoying the fact that every few seconds I'm feeling larger or smaller, or time is speeding up or slowing down, and things around me are looking cartoonish and then real again, and then cartoonish and then real again. It's just this constant, everything's changing. So I'm just sitting there like, okay, whatever. And I kid you not, I was sitting up watching this all happen. And then next thing I know, I'm waking up on the couch and the TV is off. Trip sitter's nowhere to be found. Lights are off. I don't know what time it is. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't know what happened. And I sat up and I was like, okay, that was weird that I don't remember. I wonder what I did while I was gone. What time is it? And when I took it, it was 9 o'clock at night. When I woke up, it was 2 in the morning. And I wasn't afraid. I felt a sense of peace and calmness. But I was real disoriented. I knew that I lived in the house that I was in. But I didn't know, like, what year it was, how long I had lived there, what day of the week it was, why nobody was around me, did I need to get up the next day, how I got there, who was in my house, how old my kids were, like what my life situation was, any people that I might know. Like, I couldn't figure out all the people that I know. Like, do I still talk to them? Do I still, like, I just had no idea where to place myself in time. And I didn't like the feeling. It was really weird and uncomfortable. So I thought, I'll go to bed and sleep this off. But when I got up, I hit the ground. And I said, okay, this feels like drunk. Okay, that's interesting. Feels like drunk. So I started crawling on the floor. And I crawled all the way to the bed, and then I crawled onto the bed, and then I lay down expecting to fall asleep, to sleep it off. And instead, as soon as I laid down, boom, I popped right back up, and I was wide awake and felt like I could conquer the world, and I felt highly motivated. Except when I went to get up to do something, I was spinning and dizzy and confused, and I didn't know what it was I needed to do because I didn't know who I was or where I was or what year it was or what was going on. So it kind of sucked to have all this energy and be motivated. I mean, driven, motivated, mad. Like, I could have painted my house or, maybe remodeled the kitchen. I mean, serious motivation. And so it was kind of weirding me out to be disoriented but highly motivated but unable to stand. So I laid on the bed, and that's when the sweats hit. And I felt like I was on fire, and I was drenched. Within seconds, I was just soaking wet and drenched, and my clothes were getting just drenched wet with sweat. And I was like, okay, that sucks. But I didn't feel nauseous or sick or anything, but I started to get scared that I had either taken the wrong thing or taken too much, and I was about to get really sick. And the sweating really scared me. It didn't feel good. And I started to kind of panic that maybe I was about to get really sick, and it just took it a while. And I sweated like that for a good long time, laying in the bed, unable to really move or do anything. And I remember kind of starting to freak out and breathe, trying to talk to myself, calm down, you can do this, it's just a situation. So I reached for my phone, and it was there. And I looked at it, and it was 4 a.m. How did 2 hours go by? How did my phone get by the bed? Where did the 2 hours go? Did I sweat for 2 hours? Because I don't remember sweating for 2 hours. It was 4 a.m, and I stood up, and I felt amazing. I wasn't delirious. I wasn't sweating. I was perfectly grounded. I felt joyful, happy, empowered, motivated. And then I just started crying. It just burst out of me. And I felt this heaving and this really deep sadness. Really, really deep sadness. And I knew I had just been through something powerful, and that I had cleared out something. I haven't talked about it since it happened, and it's making me cry. That I had dealt with something that had been from my childhood or something that had caused me all that anxiety and a lot of PTSD, but I don't know what it was. And a voice said, "And best that you don't." And then I heard, "Grace. You've been given grace." And so I cried really heavy and from a really deep place, and just remembering it. This is crazy. I haven't thought about it since. And I didn't cry very long at all before I just relaxed and the pain was gone. And my brain felt like it was opening packets of information, one at a time. And I was downloading the information rapidly. So it was going poof, and then I had the thought, a huge concept. And then another one, poof, like it popped open, and then brrr, I ran, like in the Matrix, when Neo learned everything rapidly. I was learning entire concepts rapidly. And they were the concept of this issue from your childhood has now been replaced with peace and acceptance and understanding that those involved loved you and were doing the best they could with what they had. And the injury you suffered has been healed. Take it and put joy in its place. And when you deal with any issue in the future that is reminiscent of that experience, have grace. Have grace for the people that are triggering you. And if you are in a position where you can see others may possibly experience that same trauma, have patience with them and give them the same grace. And then that happened over and over and over and over. So I don't know how many issues I dealt with. A lot. And as I walked forward, I felt like I was leaving it all behind. Like it was shedding. Like pieces of me were rippling apart and falling apart and just shedding. It was an incredible feeling to feel it all fall away. For the first time in my life, I shed that pain and that trauma, and I didn't feel anxiety. And I didn't know that I didn't know what it was like to live without anxiety. And in that moment, I felt like I was born for the first time. Like I felt like I think normal people feel that live without anxiety. It was beautiful. And I had a lot of ideas that day that I have since put into action in my life. And I've seen in my life all the ways that all that trauma stopped me from even conceiving of ideas of things to do. And my life changed that day. Anyway, I'll do another recreational dose. I'll do more this time. This was for the 1,000. I'll do it on camera for the, I guess, 5,000. So if you want to see me do that, I guess share. Let people know or something. I don't know. We have t-shirts. They're really nice. I like them. Will you look at them? It's in the description, the link. Will you support me and what I'm doing? It's weird to ask. I don't like asking. But there's a lot I want to do and it costs money. So I need the support. Okay. Sorry if this was boring. Sorry if I got emotional and wasn't what you expected. It's not the same as the other reports on YouTube. But I hope it's, I don't know, enlightening or what you needed to hear or something. Anyway, thanks for being in my playground and playing with me. And if you're going to recreational dose this, watch my video on recreational dosing before you do. And thanks. And I love you, beautiful people.